Palm Beach, Florida, January 2026. The room fell silent. Jon Rahm stepped to the microphone at LIV Golf's preseason media day, and everyone knew what was coming. Brooks Koepka had just walked away from a nine-figure LIV contract, sacrificed $85 million, and crawled back to the PGA Tour with his tail between his legs. The door was open. The pathway was clear. All Rahm had to do was say yes. He didn't. "I'm not planning on going anywhere." 3 sentences that sent shockwaves through the golf world. While Koepka begged for forgiveness, Rahm drew a line in the sand. While the PGA Tour offered a golden ticket back to the establishment, the Spanish bulldog chose the rebels. And in that moment, the balance of power in golf's civil war shifted forever. Subscribe for the full story of Jon Rahm's shocking announcement and what it means for the future of the sport. January 12, 2026. Ponte Vedra Beach, Florida. The memo landed in inboxes at 2:17 p.m. Eastern Time. PGA Tour CEO Brian Rolap didn't mince words. The subject line read simply, "Returning Member Program." Inside was the most significant olive branch and the sharpest knife the tour had extended since the Civil War began. For 4 years, LIV Golf's biggest stars had been exiles. They couldn't come back. There was no door, no forgiveness, no path. Brooks Koepka changed that when he walked away from LIV with a year left on his contract, citing the needs of his family after his wife Jenna suffered a miscarriage at 16 weeks. The tour had to decide what to do with him, and in deciding, they created a doorway for 3 others. The criteria were surgical. Only players who had won a major championship or the Players' Championship between 2022 and 2025 qualified. Only players who had been away from the tour for at least 2 years. That narrowed the list to exactly 4 names: Koepka, Jon Rahm, Bryson DeChambeau, and Cameron Smith. The offer came with teeth, severe and justified consequences, Rolap called them. Anyone who accepted would forfeit 5 years of potential equity in the tour's player equity program, estimated between $50 million and $85 million in lost earnings depending on performance. They'd have to make a $5 million charitable donation. They'd forfeit FedEx Cup bonus money for 2026. They'd have to play at least 15 events and earn their way into signature events through performance, not reputation. The window was narrow. February 2, just 3 weeks. Once it closed, Rolap warned, there is no promise that this path will be available again. For Koepka, the choice was made. He announced his return the same day the program launched, posting a statement on X that read, "I believe in where the PGA Tour is headed, with new leadership, new investors, and an equity program that gives players a meaningful ownership stake. I also understand there are financial penalties associated with this decision, and I accept those." For Rahm, DeChambeau, and Smith, the clock was ticking. January 13, 2026. West Palm Beach, Florida. The ballroom at LIV Golf's preseason media day was buzzing with the usual energy. Bryson DeChambeau went first, fielding questions about his upcoming contract negotiations, his Crushers GC team, the new 72-hole format. Then Jon Rahm stepped to the microphone. Everyone in the room knew what was coming. Brooks Koepka had just walked away from a 9-figure LIV contract, sacrificed $85 million, and crawled back to the PGA Tour through the new Returning Member Program. The door was open. The pathway was clear. All Rahm had to do was say yes. "I had heard rumors for quite a few weeks, some of them going back to last year already," Rahm said, his voice steady, his expression unreadable. It wasn't a surprise whatsoever. The room leaned in. This was the moment. "I'm not planning on going anywhere." 3 sentences. That's all it took. "I wish Brooks the best," Rahm continued. "And as far as I'm concerned, I'm focused on LIV for this year and hoping my team can repeat as champs." The words landed like a bomb. Reporters scrambled to process what they just heard. Twitter exploded within seconds. The hashtag #RahmStays began trending almost immediately. Behind Rahm, Bryson DeChambeau was already waiting for his turn to confirm the same thing. "I'm contracted through 2026, so excited about this year," DeChambeau said, shutting down any speculation about his own future. Cameron Smith followed, even more emphatic. "For me, to be honest, I made a decision to come out here and spend more time at home, and I'm not giving that away. I'll be on LIV for the years to come." 3 players, 1 room, 0 hesitation. The PGA Tour's carefully crafted, one-time defined window had been open for exactly 1 day, and already 3 of its biggest targets had slammed the door shut. January 13th, 2026, West Palm Beach, Florida. The world saw Jon Rahm smile and say, "I'm not planning on going anywhere." They heard the confidence in his voice, the certainty that made headlines. But what they didn't see was the calculus behind that decision, the brutal math that made staying with LIV the only logical choice. The contract. First and simplest, the paper. Rahm signed a massive deal with LIV Golf, one of the richest in sports history. That contract runs through at least 2026, with options that could extend beyond. Walking away meant litigation, breach claims, and a legal war no athlete wants. Brooks Koepka managed to negotiate an exit because of personal family circumstances. His wife Jenna's miscarriage at 16 weeks created a humanitarian case. Rahm had no such justification. Breaking his contract would have meant burning bridges, lawyers, and millions in penalties. The $85 million price tag. The PGA Tour's returning member program wasn't a welcome mat, it was a toll bridge with the highest fees in sports history. Any player accepting the offer would forfeit 5 years of equity in the Tour's Player Equity Program, estimated at $50 million to $85 million in lost earnings. On top of that, a mandatory $5 million charitable contribution. Loss of FedEx Cup bonus money for 2026. No sponsor exemptions into $20 million signature events. By the time Rahm did the math, returning meant leaving somewhere between $55 million and $90 million on the table. That's not a comeback. That's a financial disaster. The family factor. Cameron Smith said it bluntly, "I made a decision to come out here and spend more time at home, and I'm not giving that away." Rahm, a new father with young children, understood that calculus. LIV's global schedule, while demanding, offered flexibility the PGA Tour's grind couldn't match. Less travel, more time in Spain, the chance to raise his family on his terms. Some things matter more than ranking points. The OWGR breakthrough. Days before Rahm's announcement, the official world golf ranking finally caved. LIV would receive points in 2026. Partial points, yes, but points nonetheless. For years, Rahm had watched his world ranking plummet from number 1 to outside the top 50. Now, with LIV's new 72-hole format and OWGR recognition, he could climb back. The Athletics data analysis showed Rahm would jump from number 97 to number 14 if the new system had been in place earlier. The one major drawback of LIV, no pathway to majors, was suddenly solved. The $85 million price tag. One problem remains, the DP World Tour. While Tyrrell Hatton and 7 others accepted conditional releases, paid their fines, and secured Ryder Cup eligibility, Rahm refused. The fines are reportedly around $3 million, a fraction of his LIV earnings, but a matter of principle. He's chosen to pursue his appeal rather than settle. Padraig Harrington summed it up, "Social media and the fans are going to want Jon Rahm to play at the Ryder Cup. Rahm is betting that pressure will force the DP World Tour to bend before Ireland 2027. The bottom line. Jon Rahm said no because saying yes made no sense. The contract was ironclad, the financial penalties were devastating, the family situation was settled, the ranking points were finally coming, and the Ryder Cup standoff is a battle he believes he can win.
While Brooks Koepka crawled back hat in hand, Rahm stood his ground. The Spanish bulldog isn't running from a fight. He's choosing the one he wants to win.
January 14th, 2026. The golf world reacts. The news hit like a shockwave. Within hours of Jon Rahm's announcement, the golf world split into familiar factions, each interpreting his decision through their own lens. The PGA Tour's silence. From Ponte Vedra Beach, nothing. No statement, no spin, no carefully crafted response. The tour had dangled its most enticing carrot, a pathway back for 4 of LIV's biggest stars, and 3 of them had refused to bite. Koepka was coming home, but at what cost? The narrative of LIV as a temporary pit stop for disgruntled stars evaporated overnight. If Rahm, DeChambeau, and Smith were all staying, the league had suddenly achieved something no one thought possible: stability. LIV Golf's celebration. In LIV's Miami headquarters, the mood was electric. Greg Norman, the CEO who had spent years chasing these stars, watched Rahm's press conference with something close to vindication. "Jon is a warrior and a champion," Norman said in a private statement that later leaked to the media. His commitment to LIV Golf speaks volumes about where this league is headed. DeChambeau and Smith's simultaneous confirmations, Rahm's solo announcement into a united front, 3 of LIV's biggest names, all locked in for the foreseeable future. The Brooks-Koepka contrast. The contrast with Brooks-Koepka was impossible to ignore. Koepka had begged his way back, sacrificed $85 million, and agreed to a $5 million charitable donation just for the privilege of rejoining the tour. His return was framed as redemption, but it also carried the whiff of desperation. A 5-time major champion reduced to begging for sponsor exemptions and grinding through lesser events to rebuild a shattered world ranking. Rahm, by contrast, stood at a podium in West Palm Beach and dared the establishment to do something about it. The image contrast couldn't have been sharper. The players' reactions. Social media erupted. PGA Tour loyalists called Rahm a sellout, blind to the irony of criticizing someone for loyalty to their current employer. LIV supporters celebrated him as a martyr for player freedom. Fellow pros weighed in carefully, each choosing sides with their likes and retweets. Rory McIlroy, asked about Rahm's decision at a pre-tournament press conference, offered a carefully worded non-answer. "Jon's a grown man. He makes his own choices. I wish him well." The coldness was audible. Bryson DeChambeau, standing beside Rahm at Media Day, was more direct. "We're building something special here. Jon knows that. That's why he's staying." The February 2nd deadline. The returning member program remains open until February 2nd. For Rahm, DeChambeau, and Smith, the door is closed. They've publicly committed to staying. For anyone else, the offer still stands. But after Rahm's emphatic rejection, the program already looks like a failure. Designed to lure LIV's biggest names, it's landed exactly one, and he had to pay $85 million for the privilege. The balance of power in golf's civil war just shifted, and Jon Rahm is holding the lever. February 4, 2026. Riyadh, Saudi Arabia. The LIV Golf season opener arrives with a new energy. Jon Rahm stands on the first tee at Riyadh Golf Club, his Legion 13 teammates beside him, defending the team title they won in 2025. Behind him, Bryson DeChambeau and Cameron Smith prepare for a season that suddenly feels like it matters more than anyone predicted. The returning member program window closed 2 days ago. Brooks Koepka is the only taker. The PGA Tour's carefully crafted olive branch landed exactly one fish, a 5-time major champion willing to pay $85 million for the privilege of coming home. The rest? They stayed. The new LIV. This season looks different. The league adopted a 72-hole format, answering the criticism that had kept them out of the official world golf ranking. And it worked. OWGR points are finally flowing to LIV events. Partial points, yes, but enough to matter.
Jon Rahm, who watched his world ranking plummet from number 1 to number 97, would now jump to number 14 if the new system had been in place earlier. The major championships are suddenly accessible again. The team championship moved to Chicago in September, a nod to the American market. New players joined, new sponsors signed. The league that everyone predicted would collapse after its initial wave of defections is somehow still standing, still growing, still attracting talent. The Ryder Cup cloud. One problem remains. Jon Rahm still hasn't paid his DP World Tour fines. The reported $3 million stands between him and Ryder Cup eligibility. Tyrrell Hatton and 7 others accepted conditional releases, paid their fines, and secured their places in Europe's plans. Rahm chose principle over practicality. Padraig Harrington, the 3-time major champion, spoke for many when he said, "Social media and the fans are going to want Jon Rahm to play at the Ryder Cup." Luke Donald, Europe's captain, has been careful not to comment publicly, but privately the calculations are underway. Do you let the best player in Europe miss the Ryder Cup over $3 million, or do you find a way? The answer will determine Jon's legacy, not his wins, not his major, but whether he wears the blue and gold again. The Civil War continues. The PGA Tour's signature events roll on without Jon Rahm, DeChambeau, and Smith. Rory McIlroy chases history. Scottie Scheffler reclaims world number 1. Tiger Woods watches from the hill at Riviera, his body recovering, his mind still sharp. LIV moves to Adelaide in 2 weeks, where 115,000 fans will pack the fairways and the party will drown out the politics. Then Hong Kong, then Singapore, then a dozen other cities that the PGA Tour barely touches. The Civil War isn't over, but it's entered a new phase. Not the phase of defections and lawsuits and bitter recriminations, the phase of coexistence. 2 leagues, 2 schedules, 2 sets of stars. And Jon Rahm, the man who could have come home, standing firmly on one side of the divide. "I'm not planning on going anywhere," he said in January. 3 months later, those words look like prophecy.
The 2026 golf season stretches before us like an unfinished novel. The majors still matter most: Augusta in April, Oakmont in June, Royal Birkdale in July, and a PGA Championship still searching for a home. Rahm will be at all of them. His world ranking will climb. His odds will shorten. His game, honed on global fairways against global competition, will be ready. Brooks Koepka will grind through PGA Tour events, begging for exemptions, clawing for FedEx Cup points, trying to rebuild a reputation that 5 major championships should have secured forever. His comeback will be a story, but not the one he wanted. And the Civil War? It simmers. It doesn't end, because ending would require someone to admit defeat, and Jon Rahm just proved that LIV isn't admitting anything. "I wish Brooks the best," he said in January. He meant it. He also meant something else. "I'm staying." For the first time in 4 years, LIV Golf looks like it might last. For more coverage of the biggest stories in golf, subscribe and hit the notification bell.